Hello and welcome to Center of Weirdness, the weird podcast about very weird stuff, but mostly just weird TV episodes. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, Josh. Hey, all my... What was that species again?
You've already forgotten.
I have purloons. All my
purloons, yes. Hello, all you purloons out there. That'll make sense in a moment, maybe. Probably not, though, because it doesn't make sense to me. Because this week on the show, we are talking about the Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin, episode 64, LB's Wedding. And this episode, even though we've only done, a very small number of this sort of new format for Center of Weirdness, this one's going to be a little different than what we've done before because it's basically going to be me getting filled in on all the backstory by Skinner here because Skinner picked out this episode. This episode is, you said, the penultimate episode of the entire series. They did 65 episodes total.
Yes, I picked the second. I wanted this. I had warned you in the past that Teddy Ruxpin is a show that has far more lore than you would ever expect or need it to have.
You weren't kidding,
and that it was incredibly dense. And I was going to, when we were eventually going to cover it, I was going to pick the episode with the most impenetrable amount of facts and characters that you would never be able to figure out what the fuck was going on.
I mean,
and I think I did very well with that.
Yeah, you succeeded, man, because so like I will let's start, I think, for me with the bare thing that I knew about Teddy Ruxpin, which was I knew it as the doll. I knew it as the teddy bear, which you will insist that it's not a bear.
It's not a bear, it's an Iliop.
Iliop, yes, this bear-like species. But I knew it as the doll with the tape recorder in its chest that you could put in little stories and it would tell you stories. Basically, I knew that. I'm fairly certain that I had one. I can't totally recall because there might have been. I'm pretty sure there were probably knockoff Teddy Ruxpins that did the same thing, like dolls that had little tape recorders in them in some way. But I'm almost fairly certain I did have a Teddy Ruxpin, and that is basically where my knowledge stops. Like I knew that as that, and I knew nothing else. And so this show having as many fucking characters in it as it does is kind of baffling to me. And the fact that we spend more time with the secondary characters than we do with Teddy and his random family was also very surprising.
It's like an episode of the Smurfs where there's 1,000 different characters who aren't Smurfs, and the whole episode is based on Azriel's wedding.
Is the Smurfs like that? Because I watched more Smurfs than I've never seen Teddy Ruxpin. I didn't realize that it was a cartoon. Does the Smurfs ever get to that point, like where there's like?
No,
I didn't think so.
It's very surface level, and eventually a bunch of them go back in time and they just live through fairy tales.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
But yeah, like this was shown at least in Atlantic, Canada, on ASN every day after school. Not my favorite show, but just it was on between things like in and around Robotech, Voltron, other things, Batman. So it does have a Canadian component. So I just happened to have watched all of it.
All right, I just looked it up because I was like, all right, let me pull up some information here while we're talking about this thing. So Teddy Ruxpin, the show, The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin, which is what we watched, did 2 seasons and 65 episodes that aired between December 24th, 1986 and October 23rd, 1987. They aired 65 episodes of this television show in less than a year.
That's how okay, I don't know how much you know about like how shows were back then. Like you put in orders of 60 some episodes and you literally played them every day for all the days of the week in a row.
Yeah, I think,
and that's how there's so many DuckTale episodes. How there's so many Goof Troop. Like that's how you ordered shows back then. So shows have shows back in the 80s have incredible lengths.
So
and I think I'm only lasted 2 years.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of more in the mold of what happened in the 90s, where you were doing I think fewer things like when like the Nicktoons stuff started, like Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy and all of that. Like those shows did not operate the same way. They did not have that many runs because they would just replay the same episodes over and over and over again. Like they still were on for a long time and they would do seasons and new episodes and stuff, but it was not as frequent, I think, as what was happening in the 80s because that's insanity that there were that many episodes in that short of a period of time.
What also I think is funny is that there is this kind of concept I hear. Like, so I listen to a lot of podcasts, other podcasts that cover TV shows and cartoons and kid stuff, and like the history of them. And there's always like this kind of thrown out, like, well, it wasn't until like certain episodes of Batman or stuff like when the animated series, when like finally there was a kids show that had continuity. Where you had to watch week to week, and there was a continuing story. Everything wasn't a self-contained thing. That's untrue because in 1986, this show did air on TV in the States and Canada, and was completely uncontained. Like it is one story arc from day 1 to day 65. It is incredibly deep. It is incredibly complex. There is 1,000 characters. There's stuff in this episode, and like most of the main characters are in this episode, if not just there as little cameos. But like we didn't even get to Mavo, the monsters and villain organization run by Queller, the Supreme Oppressor.
Yeah, I mean we like.
And like Gummy Bears had like a story. Gummy Bears is probably the closest I can say to this as far as like something that over time got a weirder, deeper lore than you would expect a show called Gummy Bears to have.
Yeah.
When they started going to other lands and meeting other like ancient gummies, and it also had bears. But it is literally ridiculous. And then like it would end with like Punky Brewster giving a lesson, sitting in a chair talking to Teddy Ruxpin and giving like a little lesson about something.
So I looked up Gummy Bears and also
how many episodes of Gummy Bears?
Also produced 65 episodes.
That's a general purchase on it.
Oh no, I'm sorry. They did they did I think they did 95 distinct episodes, but over a longer period of time. So it was from
Gummy Bears is like the lost Disney afternoon show.
Yeah, it was like from 85 to 89, and then they did more from 89 to 90, and then it got syndicated. So basically,
at least even these tiny bears call themselves bears, and they're not fucking called Ilios.
Well, yeah, Teddy Ruxpin takes place in some other far-flung universe somewhere, and it's weird that he did like in the show he has nothing to do with like there's no tapes or anything, right? He's not like some weird Cronenbergian Videodrome nightmare with a tape deck in his chest.
He just lives with his 2 roommates, and he finds a crystal, and he goes on. He thinks he's the only Iliop in the world, and then besides his like mom or something, and then he has to find like the ancient race and his dad, and he has these crystals that he finds that there's 6 of them, and each has a special power. Another one, and this one that unlocks a book, and it's hard to talk. It's really interesting. I can't even begin to say what the overall arc is because I can't remember that much. But I have the Wikipedia open for just kind of general strokes of this, and it has nothing like. If you look back at the toys, really, and they made like smaller figures later once the show came out and stuff. But like the main line, the 2 things you think about are Teddy Ruxpin with a tape in his chest, and Grubby, his centipede friend, who's actually an octopede. But yeah, it's so weird that there's so much of this, and there's just so much of it, and I feel like somehow it just entirely wiped out of everyone's memory the second it ended.
Yeah, I mean,
because no one talks about it.
Yeah,
no one.
I had no idea. Like we obviously were very close to the end with our episodes. We did get to see Burl, his dad, who you told me was living as a hermit when they found him with amnesia.
Okay, so although not much is known about Burl's original personality, it can be reasonably assumed he's a good and loyal Iliop, as most are. When his memories were erased by Queller, who is the supreme oppressor of Mavo, the monsters and villain's organization by use of the black box. He was initially mindlessly aggressive. However, as time passed, he fell into a general confusion and shyness.
So
like he doesn't actually remember. He's Teddy's dad. He doesn't actually remember him, or apparently how to wear regular clothes.
This was, I mean, this may be less of a fun episode because it was impenetrable to me. Like, I mean, I got everything that was going on and I understood like what was happening in the grand scheme of things, but like it's a very dense it's a very dense thing. Like it's kind of wild that they were making a kid show that was specifically like, you know, with this like very like specific kind of storyline. Like, and you're right, it was like, if you look at the Wikipedia for this, it lists the seasons and the air dates, and they are one after the other every day. Like it starts on December 24th and they had a new episode on December 25th.
So like I think like this storyline also kind of continues onto the books, the books and tapes adventure series that they sold along to play inside him.
Oh, okay.
Which there's also a live action special which they keep showing pictures of on the wiki.
What?
Which looks horrifying.
Well, we may have to find
the Bounder in particular. The Bounder in particular. I'm gonna send you a quick a link to the picture of LB the Bounder, which they look like little tiny lumps of T-Rex.
Yes,
with
so
no
yeah,
arms.
the LB. This episode was called LB's Wedding, and it's very much about a particular character who is like this little tiny kind of dinosaur almost. Who
they got horns on their heads. They're red. They have two little legs. They kind of look like the leftovers of something.
Wow. That is a pretty interesting looking little guy. He's like a little puppet with a big mouth. I actually kind of like the way he looks in live action. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm kind of curious if we can find the live action special at some point. I'm not sure we can get through it. But
he's this little kind of horned dinosaur thing with no arms. And I said that while we were watching it, he looked like a Flintstones garbage disposal that had like moved into the Flintstones house when they all died, because that's what their home looks like. It looks like the Flintstones house.
It's fun because the entire personality of his species appears to be East Coast New York.
Yes. Yeah, they really just like kind of go all out with all these various characters, and I
would say what this is a show that is going all out. What's funny is, so when I was pitching you this, like we were going to cover this today, to get you in the mood for it, I sent you a little fact about Teddy Ruxpin, and that was that Teddy Ruxpin's original working name was Simeon Greep. It was later changed due to fears of Greep sounding too much like geek. That's the least reason to ever change something. One of the hottest toys of like 1986 was almost named Simeon Greep. Like you could a better name than Simeon Greep would if they named him Ursine B. Tape Chest. There's nothing there. But yet in this show, if his name was Simeon Greep and he's an Iliop, I'd be like, of course he is. That name works.
It's really weird to like.
Can we talk about Grundo?
Grundo, the name of the land that they live in, which
yet they also use it as a epitaph.
Yes. So like I'm just so perplexed by how they took this character, this little animatronic teddy bear that they made.
People just put NWA tapes in and,
yes,
and went to town.
And make him rap. But like the fact that they took this little teddy bear character and then spun this wild world out of it, like it's almost like really kind of interesting because it is not
high fantasy.
Yes, it's not the typical sort of bullshit cash in that you kind of expect from a show based on a toy. Like normally when they would do that, they wouldn't put a lot of work. And I guess, and now that I'm saying that, I'm kind of like, Well, I don't know. Maybe like, I mean, Transformers, I guess, was kind of that, like just selling more toys. But then the movie, you would say, people will say like the movie was really something and it made me cry when Optimus died and all that. So, who knows? Maybe they put some effort into the movie. But then I think of like He-Man, Masters of the Universe and stuff. Like that was really about selling toys. But like,
which is funny about this is they introduce 1,000 characters
and don't make toys of them.
They're not toyetic either. Like
No.
a lot of the characters, like the surfers in the band, look kind of awful.
Yes.
Like, and they're not bad guys. They just have warts and shit.
Yeah, they all kind of look like there's sort of like a combination of random like Mario side characters and also like that weird oh god like the Sea Monkeys show. Like they look like characters
Kinda
from that.
Kind of like sea monkeys. They kind of look like leftovers from those Muppet fantasy movies.
Yes.
Like they had that. They look like they're made to be puppets.
Yeah. Like I could have imagined buying like a bag of like a plastic bag full of little rubbery versions of the characters in this thing. Just like you would buy it for $3 and it would come with like 15 little rubber toys in it, and they would all be characters in the Teddy Ruxpin cartoon.
But man, like you fucking have a star that's a teddy bear, and like all he is a teddy bear wearing a Utilikilt shirt and a red t-shirt or anything. But like then to say like, oh, he's not a bear, he's an Iliop. Well, he's got a human friend who's named Newton Gimmick who stutters and stuff. That's fun. Yeah, but he's not a human. He's a purloon. He has small rays that have striking, almost human features.
Yeah, he's
what's a purloon? And like, why would you do that? And then like okay, there's other things that also kind of look somewhere in between bugs and humans. Those are Grundos. The bad guy's green. Okay, he's a green guy. Yeah, but he's not just green. He's a grunge and a troll. He's half and half, so he's outside of both worlds. But why? Why would you do that? Well, we want to make sure that he's a weak villain. So he's not. He's the unthreatening one who lives next door, like Squidward before Squidward. But yet he wants to join it into a larger organization called Mavo, but he can't get it because he's too much of a failure. But that organization wiped the brain of the main character's father with use of the black box.
Yeah. It's a wild it's a wild show. I guess we should try to kind of explain what happens in the episode, sort of. Like,
so it's hard. Like, so it starts off almost like a clip show where Teddy is telling us about
what's happened up to this point.
Up to this point. But like it's a fraction of a fraction.
Yes.
Basically, he says long ago he got a couple of these crystals, and him along with the royal family of Grundo found a magic book locked that no one could open. But he thought to put the crystal into the lock and it opened. But in fact, that didn't help him at all, because there's an alphabet inside that he doesn't recognize, and they've never figured it out since. He's traveled the world on his airship. He's faced multiple challenges, gone through magic, found his memory wiped father. He's fought this monsters and villains organization. Everyone's been after him, but now he has settled down, and he's just looking back. He still hasn't figured out how to read the words in this book. The solution doesn't make any fucking sense.
No, it doesn't. I will say I scrolled through the episodes, and it looks like they find the mysterious book way back in episode 24. So,
and the solution is in his mother's china drawer. It's just something she uses to put tea and crumpets on.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any note about how he opened the book. Like, when did he figure out how to open the book? But yeah, it's interesting. Like, so it does that thing where he's like writing in a journal, and then that has a big T on it, so you know that it's his. And he's talking about what happened, which I think is kind of a clever way to do a last time on Teddy Ruxpin, or previously on. I think that's kind of fun because I think more shows should open with the character writing in a journal about what happened on the previous episode to fill in any new viewers. which is I think pretty smart when you're doing something that is serialized as this is. Like, so it looks like they ran the original for the first season from December 24th, basically all the way through, I guess, with a couple little 1 or 2 day breaks, probably for weekends and stuff. Through until February 8th, and then they picked up season 2 in September, and then ran that all the way through until October 23rd.
I could imagine not getting to the like if they had never gotten to the wedding of the sidekick of the useless sub villain.
Yeah, so
Like I want to stress how strange it is, and like literally this is like not only is this the wedding of a side character's sidekick, the royal family shows up at it.
yeah, and it's not like it's one of those weird things where it's like the you find out about that happening later, or that our main characters were invited or something like that. Like, no, it's not even that at all. They just stumble upon it and then they're there. And we spend more time, I think, with LB and Buffy getting ready for their wedding than we actually do with Teddy and his friends.
Like in theory, there's like Teddy and his friend are solving a mystery that has been around for 40 episodes.
Yeah.
And if we spend more time with LB's in-laws fighting over the wedding.
Yeah. So
so
they've opened the book. They can't understand what it is. We cut to LB and Buffy, whose mothers are fighting because Buffy wants a brass band to play at the wedding, and they're sort of fighting about it. These are the bounders that we talked about.
Really late in the game to be doing this, considering the wedding appears to be within like 1 hour.
Yeah, the wedding, I thought it was like, oh, we're prepping for it. But like, no, they go out and then they start grabbing a bunch of stuff, flowers and things and whatnot, and they sing a song about all the stuff that they're doing.
By the way, yeah, every show, every episode, all 65 episodes, I think has a song.
Oh.
And also the theme song to this show is fucking amazing.
Oh, yes. It is Teddy Ruxpin singing about all the adventures he's going to go on, and
come dream with him tonight.
Yes, come dream with him, and it's him flying around the land of Grundo, and seeing all the various characters, including the Grand Oppressor or whatever his name is. Telling everyone
what's the city with no name? City with
the hard to find city.
Hard to find city. That's right.
Yeah. Like doing a bunch of basically explaining, what the whole point is of basically I'm going to get on my airship and fly around, like a Final Fantasy game, and yeah, you get to see the characters. I mean, it's doing a good enough job of explaining.
Yeah, you see the Woolly What's-It, you see the Fogs.
But I also can't imagine with as serialized as the show was, and apparently it says that the series is mostly serialized, but it is even further broken down into weekly story arcs, which involve visiting a different part of Grundo or exploring a major plot thread, often ending in cliffhangers. Some storylines were taken directly from the toys, books, and tape story sets, with secondary plots added to increase the runtime. So,
this had to be British, written.
No,
right?
This is Canadian.
Someone British in Canada.
No, I don't think so. Ken Force.
Ken Force
is Canadian, I think.
It's so not North American feeling.
Yeah, let's see. Created by. Let me see if where Ken. He's American. Sorry, he is American. But I think the show was created.
The show's Canadian.
By Canadian.
Yeah, Nelvana or something.
Yeah, it's Atkinson Film Arts, which is from Ontario. I think they're the animation studio that did it. But I think that it's very interesting to have this show where Teddy Ruxpin is a toy for small children. It is a teddy bear that sings songs to them and tells them stories. So it is for little kids, probably 4 or 5 years old, maybe even younger. But around that, you're at a certain point, you're going to stop playing with teddy bears and you're going to do other things. So I can't imagine a kid that's 6 or 7 or 8. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, you had a child who was that young. I mean, she's grown up now. She's not. She's still alive.
She would have enjoyed this show at age 7. I think.
Well, so maybe that's what I was kind of getting at. I wonder if Teddy Ruxpin like they were kind of doing the show as a way to hold on to the people that were now too old to play with the actual doll. Like they're not playing with that anymore. So now we're going to give them a show that's like a little more, invested, and they have to like really pay attention to it. But I still can't imagine a 6-year-old sitting down and like really being focused in on the 65 episodes with the serialized plot.
Yeah.
Because like how would you catch it? You couldn't catch it every single day. I cannot imagine a kid going, I got to catch the second episode of Teddy Ruxpin, Mom, on Christmas Day. We're going to your aunt's. Get your ass up.
It's so bizarre, like, because like there's shows like Kissy Fur and shit, which were also teddy bear shows at the time, and like they're nothing. Like nothing else is close to this besides like Gummy Bears.
Yeah, it's so wild to me.
And even that is way less serialized than this.
Because like that one, you could just start up and they would say everybody's names and then you would know what was going on. This one has to have a previously on to catch you up on like the important serialized story with these crystals. So they pulled the book open and the mom, I don't know what her name is. She doesn't even seem to have a name on this. I'm looking on this Wikipedia, and it doesn't seem like she's even listed. They list his dad, but not his mom. And she seems to recognize the lettering in the book, and she goes.
I love that his dad's name is Burl.
And she goes into.
It's Teddy Ruxpin's dad, Burl Ruxpin. That's the name of Symbian Greep, Burl Greep.
But she goes to her china cabinet and digs through it, pulls out all the plates, and it's funny that she remembers it because a plate breaks, and then she's like, wait a minute, and then she goes to the cabinet, pulls all the stuff out, and pulls out this little sort of frame. It looks like a picture frame.
I really hope there's an episode where she finds it and goes, this will be a nice tray, puts it in there, like
setting
earlier.
it up.
That is entirely possible. I just don't remember.
Oh, I'm sure.
Otherwise, what a way to solve mystery of like, oh, I happen to have some flatware that, like, one of my forks opens the forest to the master sword. Like, there's nothing to it, and then like they all four characters all in a row say like, hey, I recognize that writing on that plate. It's the same as the book. Well, she's just told them that, and they all have to also repeat that out loud.
But yeah,
like, so we get it.
They get the little frame out, and it allows them to sort of see the book and read the writing inside. It's sort of like a translation device, and they read it and they understand that it's basically a history text of the land of Grundo, I guess, and the Iliop. It's not Iliop, is it? It's the king and queen. What are they? They're Illipers.
Illipers. Yes.
So those are not Iliops.
No.
So what?
And they're not Gruns in Grundos. They're Iliops.
So what is
Iliads?
Okay, so what is okay, let me look here. Okay, we got Iliops, which are humanoid bear-like creatures. Got that. Yep. They reside in modern Relonia after a forced mass exodus from ancient Grundo, where they had an advanced civilization. Okay, wow, that's a very dark story. Illipers are near relatives to humans, but with broad faces and flat noses. Okay, who live in a medieval type society with a royal monarchy. They shared a close association with the civilization of the Iliops. So okay, they were like they worked together. So the Illipers, the king and the queen, they had this book written, I guess, by a historian within the Illiper society about their parents or the king and the queen several generations before them. And then it also talks about, this is where I got a little confused. It talks about Iliops or some other civilization or something, I think. Yes. Okay. Anyway, doesn't really matter. But
this is where they mentioned the hard to find city.
Yeah, they mentioned the hard to find city, which someone special lives there, but I don't know who.
I don't remember either.
This is like the worst episode because we're like, I don't remember who this person is. But they're as they're talking, Grubby I think knocks over a glass of orange juice, which I was like, that's a weird thing to put in there. And of course, it is part of the plot because the orange juice gets on the crystal that they use to open the book, which then starts to levitate and fly around. And
So we had earlier saw Newton gimmick the Perloon.
yes,
he was saying that he was gonna do whatever it took to figure out what this crystal did, because I think they figured out what all the other 5 crystals have
yes.
do, but they have not figured out this one special
Let me
power.
actually, before we go any further, let me explain what the 7 crystals of Grundo are. So the first crystal is imagination, and that allows you to shrink and grow. Okay. The second crystal is honesty, and that provides for duplication. So I guess you can clone yourself. The third crystal is bravery, which allows for invisibility. Then they start getting this one gets a little weird. The fourth crystal is trust, and it's a oxygen generator. The fifth crystal is friendship, which alters your speed. So I don't know if that makes you go fast or slow or both.
I assume the oxygen generator lets you breathe underwater.
Probably so, because I did see something about an episode where he falls off the airship into the ocean. The fifth crystal, I already said that was friendship, speed altering. The sixth crystal, which is the one in this episode, is freedom, and it allows you to fly. And the seventh crystal, the black box, restores and erases memory. And I saw something.
And that's what happened to his dad.
That's what happened to his dad. The grand oppressor messed up his memory. So the citric acid in the orange juice, this is what Newton surmises, or not Newton. Wait, what is it? Newton gimmick.
Newton gimmick is his full name. But yeah, like he had said he will do anything to figure this out, including working for days, not forever, not for weeks, not for months, for years. Days. He'll put days.
Yeah, I got 2 days into this shit, and I don't know what's going on. So just fucking get it out of here.
Well, he's tried spinning it and putting it in water, but he hasn't put it in orange juice yet.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how that's kind of the equivalent of that thing of like, who thought, you would take this particular thing and put it in your mouth and eat it, like that. Like who was the first person to think that it's good to looking at this thing and thinking, I'm going to eat that, like some spiny fruit or something. You're like, why would you think to put that in your mouth? Like everything about it is telling you to stay away, but you're like, no, I'm going to crack it open and see what's in there. Like this is the same thing. Who was the first person to think to dunk that crystal into orange juice?
Apparently Grubby.
But yeah, it spills and then it flies around the room, which they don't notice it because they're fully engrossed in what's in the book. And then it flies outside to what is this guy's fucking name? Gleep Shido or whatever.
Oh, Tweeg?
Tweeg, yes.
Jack W.
Tweeg, which I think they call him Twink at some point in this, which is
LB can never get his name.
But that's a little, I mean, come on now. I mean, even in the 80s, probably shouldn't have been saying that, but like, so he grabs the crystal and then it causes him to fly up into the air and he's flying all around. And so they jump in the airship to go after him to try to get the crystal back. And they try to catch him and they're not able to. And so they wonder like, all right, well, eventually the orange juice will just evaporate and he will fall. And he does fall right into the middle of the wedding, right into the cake, which everybody seems to be okay with. Like he falls into the cake and people are upset about it, but because they get cake all over their face, it looks like a fucking bukkake had happened at this wedding. And then the guy who made the cake tastes the cake after Tweeg has fallen into it, and he seems to be even more impressed by how good it is.
Yeah, and later when our main characters who are barely in this episode come upon them, they're like, oh, everyone's covered in icing. And they will keep going like, interesting.
So then we're at the wedding and so Tweeg is the boss of LB. Is that correct?
Correct. He employs him but does not pay him.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's why it was such a big deal that he has given him this gold.
He's famously cheap.
Okay. All right. So yeah, he's a very cheap person, and he digs out this box that he has that he says is full of seashells that he gives to LB. And then we get a cutaway gag to some other character sitting on a beach somewhere else saying that he actually switched out the seashells, kept them for himself, and filled the box full of gold for Tweeg.
He is a grunge.
A grunge. Okay, so he's a relative. Okay, grunges are relatives of the Illipers, but they're jungle dwellers with antenna in lieu of ears, and they tend to be passionate about their hobbies.
There are two distinct cultures.
Oh, okay. Yes, I see this.
The tough and hardy jungle grunges, and the laid back and fun loving hippie like surf grunges who we see in this episode.
Okay, so we got some surf grunges. That's fun. So he's had all this gold the whole time. Who knows when that episode happened? Who knows if that was the last episode or if that was 30 episodes ago? It's hard to say.
Just laying the seeds for all these great moments that really paid off for you, Josh Collis, who only has watched the 64th episode of The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin.
And so like he so then they go through the wedding. The wizard marries them. I don't know who this wizard is.
His name is the Wizard.
Oh, it's just the wizard?
He's a Purloon, though.
Oh, okay. So he's a Purloon. But he's not listed in this credits thing, so I didn't know who he was.
He's just the
wizard. Okay. And so he marries LB and Buffy. I did get their names.
He's the brother of the sorcerer.
Are you kidding, or is that real?
I'm not making that up.
So yeah, he marries them, and they start going through all of their gifts. That seems like
a wizard wedding.
Yeah, that seems like a weird thing to do at your wedding. Like I've never been to a wedding where that happens, where the bride and groom then start going through all their gifts and throwing out the garbage that they don't like in front of their guests. That seems like a very bad precedent there.
Yeah, but it's I bet you if you stream that, you could get a lot of hits.
Oh yeah, for sure. That would actually be a thing. Like, go live on TikTok and going through all of your wedding gifts and being like, "This sucks."
It would make you popular with your friends, though.
No, probably not. But some influencer or some person who's trying to hit it big, but go viral. I mean, I think they wouldn't really give a shit about that. They don't need friends if they have sponsorship deals.
Luckily, we do. Speaking of influencers and filming and streaming, we do have the journalist Illiper who's following them around with his little camera.
Oh, is that Louis?
That is Louis.
Okay.
He's he's a grunge.
Yes.
He works for the Wizard.
Yeah, he's a grunge filmographer who has like this fucking Whoville looking camera.
They look very very Muppets, very 1,000.
Yes, they do. They look like sort of a combination of all those kinds of things that
they're instantly recognizable as something you would think I saw before, and then holy shit, is the live action version of him horrifying.
Yeah, I think we do need to find this. You got to send me that, but I think we do need to find this live action version because I'm very curious.
All right, he's coming over to look. Him and his giant mouth are on his way to you. I really suggest.
Oh my god.
You have to go to the Teddy Ruxpin wiki fandom to really go along with this episode because I'm sure we are saying a lot of words that don't make sense to people right now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I was baffled. Like I understood it wasn't like the story was inexplicable because they do a decent enough job of catching you up on where they're at and you can figure it out. Like even if you don't know who LB and Buffy are, you understand like, oh, they're getting married and their parents are fighting and it's a whole thing. Like you get it through context clues, but like just the overarching story and little things that were happening, I was like, what the fuck? And there's all these characters that you're supposed to know, and like the point where fucking Gimmick sits down and puts his hand on the doctor's hand, and you're like, what the fuck is this? I don't know who these people are, and apparently they're in a relationship.
I mean, they don't even explain the fact that Gimmick has like pet Furbies.
oh,
Those things are Furbies.
are those the
fobs?
The fobs. Okay, yeah.
I mean, they look like Furbies, don't they? With a neck.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. They're multicolored penguin-like creatures kept as sapient pets. So
sapient pets.
Yeah.
Think about that. Sapient pets. Those are two words that should never go together.
Yeah, that's like me keeping a human as a dog in a cage.
I'm sure there's a manga about that.
I'm sure. But like, so then they get to the wedding, our main characters who we haven't talked about in a bit, and they they find Tweeg, and he has the crystal there, and it slips out of his hand, or he realizes that it's on his head, and he freaks out because he doesn't want to go flying around again, so he throws it, and then they just catch it, and Teddy puts it in his pocket. I was expecting him to put it in the hole in his chest, but no such luck there.
There's no. You would think that maybe there would be some kind of magic point where he would put something in his chest. There is not.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Like, I want him to have,
because here's the thing though.
I want him to have the Cronenberg like chest VCR.
Teddy Ruxpin the toy doesn't have a tape player in his chest. Teddy Ruxpin the toy is just a storyteller, Josh.
Oh, okay.
That is the mechanism we as humans see. But as a toy that connects with the children, he's just a teddy bear that tells of stories of adventure.
Oh, okay.
That the kids don't need to know how they got there. He's just telling. To them, he's just a storyteller.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, so they get the crystal back. The LB and his wife Buffy tear open all their gifts. They hate everything except the box of gold that Glup Shido, whatever his name is, Tweeg.
They love gold.
Yeah, Tweeg. Whatever Tweeg gave them, they're happy about that. And then that's basically it. I think they fly away on.
They fly away with on the news guys. This is bicycle helicopter.
Yes.
To their honeymoon. Tweeg is upset because he wants his gold back because he didn't realize he had given them gold.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffy says, do we have to bring him along on the honeymoon? And LB says, why not? He paid for it. So he's getting to watch them do it founder style all weekend.
Well, it's pretty funny because I looked ahead at episode 65, the mystery unravels, and the episode little synopsis starts with LB and Buffy went on a honeymoon to the land of Ling, but they decide to come back to Tweeg just in time to use the money that Tweeg unintentionally gave them as a wedding present to pay off his debts to the Mavo tax collector.
The land of laying?
Ying, sorry.
Oh, okay, I thought you said laying. I'm like,
yes, they went to the land of laying, all right. But it doesn't sound
how they do it.
Doesn't sound like they fully successfully wrap up the story either. They leave it very open-ended because I think maybe they were thinking maybe they would come back for more because it looks like Teddy like figures out like it figures out what all the crystals do, but then the seventh crystal gets stolen. And
I mean, that you would think once like he has all 7 crystals and he figures out what they do, like that's when you really start the adventure.
Yeah,
you don't really tamp it down. I mean, I understand that the comedy foil sidekick has now been married. There's nowhere else to go from there. But like that's not where you end it at a story this large, where there's creatures called anythings, which were once called nothings. And their names are this, that, and the other one.
I mean, I have to say, I think that's basically it. I have to say that this is weird, but I think it's mostly weird because of how intricate the storytelling is. Like, I'm not sitting down to a kid's cartoon in the 80s expecting something this intricately told and this serialized. It doesn't make any sense to me that it would be like that.
I think that's where it fascinated my friends and I, because we were a little too old for it by like 87 or so. But for like a Teddy Ruxpin show. Like at like 9, we were too old for it.
Yeah.
But like it was like we were utterly confused at like this show had this high fantasy adventure, which also shows back then did not have. Like that was like that's another thing. Like,
well, it kind of fits the same mold of something like the Gummy Bears or the Care Bears or the Smurfs, where it's sort of,
but it's a little bit.
But it is more. I think just because of the serialized nature of it, it is more like high fantasy than those things are. Like those are
there's
like
an airship.
Yeah,
There's an airship, and like there's very specific lands that have a history that are connected with specific species there, and they're not all the same.
Yeah.
And it's a little weird. And one of the episodes, which I did not pick, but I almost did, Grubby gets shrunk down with a shrinking ray. And that's from the first crystal, the Shrink and Grow Imagination one. And he meets a buxom insect. But like it's yeah, like what is weird is that this is like if I feel like if a show like this came along now, even where that it wouldn't stick out as much as far as like being different than everything else. If a show like this dropped on Netflix, all 65 episodes, like say the Bratz show was like some kind of toy, like LOL doll toys,
Monster High,
like had Monster High had like something this suddenly bizarrely deep. Like even those toys are older toys, like something like for fucking babies came out.
I mean this would be like oh god, the what's the little vet doctor girl?
Doc McStuffins.
Doc McStuffins.
Like Doc McStuffins was like it was a side character. She was Newton Gimmick in the show, and it was this entire world. Of this. And she barely did, and she never not once did she do any doctoring of stuffed animals because there's no stuffed animals in the world because she's a Perloon. And it dropped. I think like if people would be confused, but there'd be like this section of the internet be like, this is so entirely my shit.
I mean,
like I'm gonna make so much fucking art about this. I'm gonna, and yet it has. There are obviously Wikipedias about it, but they're not for what it is. You think there'd be more? This erased out of people's memory immediately. Like if you told someone like Teddy Ruxpin, oh yeah, it's the toy with the tape chest and like people put dirty songs in it. What about the show? Yeah, I figure it was stupid and a little kid's show. I'm like. But it wasn't, and it was on for every day for a fucking year.
Yeah, that's like, the most baffling thing for me too, is that like that they aired this thing just consistently for months at a time, every single week. Like they did not,
and it would have lapped every 2 months. Like every 2 months, you'd have a chance to start the whole fucking thing again.
Yeah.
We didn't, in our rip of it, didn't have the protect yourself segment.
No, I saw that listing. And so let me read this this is from the Wikipedia, but it says, due to the partnership between Worlds of Wonder, who were the creators of Teddy Ruxpin, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, when the series was originally syndicated, each episode included a short segment called Protect Yourself, which ran after a teaser for the next episode and prior to the credits. It featured an animated Teddy Ruxpin on a live-action set who would introduce contemporary child stars such as Jason Bateman, Bryce Beckham, don't know who that is.
That's Wesley from Mr. Beverly.
Okay, Tiffany Brissett.
Small Wonder.
Oh, okay. That'll be coming up soon. Shannon Doherty, Corey Feldman, and Shalane McCall. Don't know who that is.
She's from Dallas.
Oh, okay.
So she would be in a gigantic.
Maybe we'll do a Dallas episode. We'll do the one where what's his name gets shot.
JR gets shot.
The guests would then give young viewers advice on topics such as avoiding strangers, what to do in an emergency, how to respond to inappropriate touching, or running away. I mean,
it's very specific what they were partnering with.
A common theme was to talk to a trusted grown-up for help. I wish we'd had one of those because I really would have loved to see who the celebrity was that they got in 1986 or 7 for this.
I specifically remember Small Wonder being the one that always in my head there, because they would be like for the full week it'd be the same star, I think.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So like you would have the same.
Was that maybe that's where she said don't get in the refrigerator?
Maybe Teddy Ruxpin taught her how to make a burrito.
Yeah, in this thing, he doesn't have a tape deck in his chest. He has a microwave.
It what a really so I had been kind of I had been prepping you for this for a
Yeah.
while. Um, was it more or less than what you expected?
I mean, it was you prepped me, I think, correctly. Like it didn't get to a point where I was like, what are they doing? Like, I think I was just impenetrable because there were so many characters that I didn't get. Like, I feel like if this were, I guess we can get to kind of our ratings of like sort of our scale of weirdness here. I think that if,
I wish we had Queller on in this episode because he's his voice by Barth from You Can't Depend on
whoa,
Television.
really? Oh,
Yeah, Les
very
Lyle,
cool.
who played all the male adults.
Okay, very cool. Like he, I think the show is weird. I think just more conceptually weird. Like the fact that they did 65 episodes in less than a year. The
Like, I promise you, My Pet Monster is nowhere near as deep as this.
but like the fact that it's very serialized, and that they are doing this for ostensibly small children, which is kind of cool. Like it is pretty neat that you have something that is obviously, geared towards kids, but is still trying to give them something that's not just dumbed down garbage every single episode. I'm not saying that this was a great episode or anything like that. It was pretty basic and kind of dull. Like I was interested by the crystal shit, but I didn't give a shit about LB and his wedding. But like I think that it's kind of cool that they're trying to do something that is not just, oh, Teddy goes on a fun adventure and then reset every episode. It's the same thing every episode. Nothing unique happens. Characters don't develop. The characters don't grow. I mean, you literally have a fucking wedding. Like you have a character that is they're expanding not just villains, they're expanding villains sidekicks. Like that's really interesting and I think kind of cool. And like I'm thinking of like the Ninja Turtles. Did Bebop or Rocksteady get fucking married in any of those episodes? Like I don't think they did. So
and it's treated like this is treated as it is the comedy of the episode, but they're legitimately in love and they're happy to be married.
Yeah, like I think just the fact that this thing existed in the 80s, like
it's out of time.
Yeah, like I feel like I think your analogy with the Batman show, like a lot of people like to say, like, yeah, this is geared at slightly older kids, but also it's like there's some serialized stuff going on, and like you had to remember certain things, but even that is not as serialized as this. This is probably one of the most serialized cartoons I think I've ever heard of.
I think it's the most serialized cartoon that would have been on American television until they started bringing
anime,
over, Dragon Ball.
Yeah,
Dragon Ball
I think you're right.
Anime.
I think maybe like
Robotech would have been as well, but like
yeah, I think
they didn't like this isn't another culture's show being repurposed.
No, you're right. This is anime levels.
I also loved Robotech a lot.
Yeah, this is anime levels of continuity. Like the fact that every episode really hinges on you having seen the previous 60 episodes to understand what's going on.
Plus, there's an episode where Tweed gives everybody measles and then sells them fake medicine.
I mean, I would like to watch that one. Actually, that might be fun. I mean, maybe we'll come back to this show. Like, maybe we'll do one with the oppressor in it. That would be interesting to see. I would like to see what's going on with with Mavo. Also, I noticed here that in episode 60. Mavo costume ball, that's apparently where LB falls in love with Buffy. So they get married in the span of this show about 5 days after they meet.
Yeah, but like in a show that has a lot of chances for him to meet his true love.
But yeah, I think so so I think my rating is going to not be just for this episode, but for the show as a whole and just kind of the existence of the show. And for that, I think I'm going to give it like an 8 because I think this is super weird that this was a thing that existed.
I'm gonna go with 8 as well. Like I said, it's like in like it's not doing anything. Like it's not like a crazy show as far as like besides the fact that the teddy bears are called Iliad's pups and like individual facts on this are nuts, and it's very much an RPG where there are crystals and
Yeah.
they each have their own power. Uh, so like in have an airship in 1986, years before Final Fantasy. Um, but like yeah, like it is this weird thing that's out of time and unforgotten and completely forgotten, and it does not match the property. It doesn't match the property is tied to.
No.
Like I could see the fancy elements being in little golden book sized
Sure.
tapes, and you would have fantasy elements to make the kids have imagination while this bear is talking to them. But strung over 65 episodes of 22 minutes, they really fleshed it out in an absolutely almost bizarre level of detail. Like somebody had a lot of fun doing this, and if they're still alive, I imagine they're also like, why is nobody finding this? And it is one of those shows that I feel like someday, sometime, someone who has a much more popular podcast than ours or something is going to find and is going to cover in detail, and all Twitter will go, "Holy shit! Why has no one ever mentioned this?" Like as a thing, like you're the first person to ever find this. Everyone's forgotten this. I'm like, and like, I'm sure a lot of Canadians my age do remember this. That it'll feel like a fever dream if they think about it. Um, it's even crazier. It's even weirder than all the raccoon episodes, and that had some continuity, but not a lot.
And the fact
Uh,
too that this show, it started in '86. So in December of '86, this the toy itself launched in September of '85. So like they really cranked this thing out like very quickly.
it's not drawn or animated like shit
No,
either.
like they really did, like they really put some work into it. And it is weird to me that all this happened in a pretty short period of time, because it looks like the company that originally started Worlds of Wonder with the first Teddy Ruxpin doll like went bankrupt in '88, and then basically got sold off to Hasbro in like the early '90s. So like they were basically like Teddy Ruxpin started in '85 and then I guess continued to get produced after that, but kind of like had a bit of a dip in the '80s because the company wouldn't have gone, the late '80s wouldn't have gone bankrupt if something hadn't happened. So it's just, and also somehow Worlds
But
of Wonder was connected to the launching of the NES.
everything was a little bit more confusing back then as far as like what could be what you needed to do to get into markets and into
So yeah, okay.
stores.
So it says in '86, Teddy Ruxpin sales peaked. They launched a series of safety messages for children with different partners, including firefighters and the United States Life Saving Association. Worlds of Wonder, which now is like it's a YouTube channel that talks a lot about RuPaul's Drag Race, which is very funny. Became the exclusive distributor for the launch of the smash hit Nintendo Entertainment System, based on leveraging the undeniable strength of Teddy Ruxpin and laser tag. So that's just an
Well,
amazing
you got to
sentence.
think. You got to think that like Nintendo launched with a light gun, and it launched in very few. Like everyone like thinks like the NES kind of became this thing in like 88, 89 in America. Like it's been it launched in Japan in 83, and then it soft launched in America in like 85, 86.
Yeah.
Like only in New York. Like it took forever to come out here. Um, like by the time we were getting Mario 1, they were almost ready to make Mario
So
3.
we honestly, this is a wild way to end this, but we have Teddy Ruxpin to thank for Nintendo. I mean,
Yes.
that's
But
fucking
like
crazy.
what I think is like what really gets to me onto the top level of this is that it is a show that no one remembers that it is like this, right?
Yeah.
Yet it is a product that everyone remembers.
Yeah.
Like like no one from our generation doesn't know what Teddy Ruxpin was. It was incredibly popular.
Yeah, it was super popular. Everybody knew it.
It did not help them past 88.
No.
But it was like this company that thought we're going to sell this thing, which looked less like a bear in their original working of it, that we were going to name this thing Simeon Greep. Simeon Greep. And yet they managed to make something that was so fucking popular. This and laser tag could not have peaked more or fell harder or faster.
I mean,
but the show is gone. The show is completely gone. Yet everyone remembers the product. It's like, yeah, I mentioned Kissy for every now and then, or Sport Billy. No one remembers those fucking things because there's no toys attached to it. Everyone remembers the toy, Teddy Ruxpin. This show that is so bizarrely deep in lore and words and purloons. No one remembers it.
I think it is because there weren't toys, which also I guess is kind of interesting. Like maybe it was because things were just starting to go bad for them and they couldn't produce any more stuff.
God, man, if they had just made a few more fobs, they could have fucking if the Gremlins people could sue the Furbies for looking too much like Gizmo, they could have sued somebody for at least looking like it has almost the same shape and the same face as a Furby. Yeah. It has the same. They both have beaks.
Yeah, I mean I think this is one that we may come back to just because I'm curious to see what other weird bullshit we might encounter. Like I would like to see one with the bad guy, like I said, because I think that would be interesting. But yeah, I mean, I thank you for bringing this to my attention, for giving me more information about Teddy Ruxpin that I did not have prior to this. I'm
so excited to finally
moment.
have on tape and going into our canon that we've covered Teddy Ruxpin in some way, because even if only 10 people listen to this episode, I've increased the awareness of Purloons by 10.
Yeah, you have. I will never forget it. Until I ask you, what were those people called again? But
Grunges. Heavens to Grundo.
But I think that is probably going to do it for this episode of Center of Weirdness. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying the show as we continue to add new, interesting programs to our catalog. But until next time, when we're back with another weird TV show, I've been Purloon Glup Beelzebop.
I've been Jack T.W. Skinner.
Keep it weird out there. You've been listening to Center of Weirdness. If you like this show, rate and review us wherever you find it, but especially on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to every episode at centerofweird.com, where you can also find all of the old Predictocast episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us to tell us about a show we should cover, hit us up on Twitter at WeirdCenter. As always, thanks for listening.
So, in most episodes, Grubby's gimmick is that he makes a horrible food called root stew that no one likes but him. There's one episode where he invents root beer.
Ooh.
Which made me think, I had to think about today because I was buying root beer for my daughter, and she turns to me and in all honesty goes, "Thank God for Prohibition, because I really like root beer and it wouldn't have been invented without it."
And
I just stared at her, and like no 14-year-old has ever said that statement in their lives.
And you rubbed her head and said, "That's a good Grubby."
That's a good Grubby. Uncle Grubby, they call him.